Hey out there in Mommy Land, this is Mom Unfiltered. I'm your host, Jacqueline. I really appreciate you being here with me today, and I pray that you are tremendously blessed by our podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Mom Unfiltered CA. Now it's time for our program. Hey out there in Mommy Land, this is Mom Unfiltered. I'm way unfiltered, honey. This is the 2020 shelter-in-place quarantine edition of Mom Unfiltered. So, ladies, I haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks, and you haven't heard from me, and I am so sorry about that, but it has been a little stressful. So the last 14 days have been really, really stressful. Well, the first week you haven't heard from me was because I was reading Proverbs 31:15, and it wasn't clicking. Nothing was clicking. And I was like, Lord, what am I supposed to get to my sisters? What am I supposed to get to the ladies? And I didn't hear anything. So rest assured, I was trying to be still, but my life started becoming to be in a little turmoil. So I was like, okay, Lord. So I went back to focus on the thing that I needed to focus on. And then COVID-19 happened. And at first I was like, I'm a nurse by trade. So I'm reading all this stuff and I'm like, it's the flu, y'all. Like, stop tripping. It's the flu. Wash your hands. Wash your hands. Let's start doing it from the beginning. Wash your hands, people. Just stop, touching everything. And I work at the gym, and, we spray down the equipment after every use. Most people, I do it before and after because I see the ones out there not doing it. So I'm just like, okay, all right, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. And then they started closing stuff down, and they took my children out of school. And Lord knows I need them to be in school. But the gym was still open. I was still working. It was good. And then all of a sudden, God woke me up. He's like, go to the gym, get your exercise, and work really hard in your exercise. So I had my worship music on. I worked really, really hard that morning, and I was set and ready to teach that night. And as soon as I left at 7:45, and at 8:30 I got the text and the email saying that the gym was closed. And the next couple of days was unsure. And then I got the email and the letter to say that we were all laid off until COVID was over, until we can all, come back, because they had to close the gym down. They didn't have work for us, so they weren't going to pay us. And so now I'm at home. And the next day after that, my children were at home indefinitely. So I'm like, okay, great. The first couple of days it was okay because we didn't have to shelter in place. So kids were out of school. We went to the park. We, went at the grocery store. We just did stuff. And I kind of did some panic buying. I didn't buy loads and loads of toilet tissue like some people did, but I did make sure that the pantry was stocked with snacks, and I made sure that the refrigerator, that we had enough milk and stuff like that. So the freezer's full, the pantry's full, and the refrigerator, I just make sure it was full. And so then the call came out for us to shelter in place, and that was kind of rough. I stayed in the house for the most part. The weekend I did go out and run. I ran an hour, and the hardest part for me was I thought I was an extrovert. I love being with my kids. I love doing stuff with them. But I don't have any me time. Like, my time by myself is limited. And so I realized that that time was gone. And like, I don't have it. I used to go to the gym and play my worship music and work out any frustrations that I had. But now, like, where do I go for release? Like, what do I do? So that's when I said I was going to start running. And I started running. And then I'm like, I don't have weights heavy enough because I've been really trying to transform my body and I don't have weights heavy enough. So I started squatting my kids. I have one that was close to the weight that I was squatting. So I put her on my back and I'll be squatting her twice a week. And then I started praying more, and I started praying more and praying more and praying more and going to God for things, because some things started coming up in my life and in my family that I was really ignoring. And now I had to see, and now I had to pray about, God, give me a plan. Help me with the season that I need to get this done in. And while I'm sitting at home, I'm not worried about finances. My husband is still going to work. Since I've been laid off, I get unemployment, and that is sufficient. Just like God's grace is sufficient enough. And so I'm okay with that. But just the time that I had to myself is gone because the kids are here, like, all the time. And they're here now. I got them in the back room. I told them to be quiet, or I'm, threatened them with every inch of their life. But who knows? There might be some screaming, yelling. There was a point where my daughters were arguing so much, somebody was going to pull a knife on somebody and they were going to kill each other. And I just had to step in and was like, you know what? You guys are going to have to separate yourself. I started getting envious of the moms and the families that had homes, because we had a home. And because we were renting our home, we don't have that home anymore because they decided to sell the house and they didn't want it to sell it to us. So now we're in a teeny tiny apartment. My children do not have a backyard to go out to. And so I started envying the parents that had backyards and had big homes and their children had rooms, where three of my children are in the same room and my husband and I share a room. So it's been rough, to say the least. And then getting started. Hold on one second. Zeke, go in the back room, please. No, the dog's not following you. You're harassing the dog. And then we had to, I had to try to homeschool them. Now, look, we tried homeschooling over the summertime, like 3 or 4 weeks before summer ends. I usually try to get them updated on school, and we'll go, get them back into the swing of things. We do school schedule and all that other stuff. And it kind of worked. It kind of didn't, whatever. But they were prepared for school, which was good. But like trying to homeschool them at their grade now and their grade, or what they were doing, is just like a hot mess. So every morning I have them read, and then I have them come on the computer and do math. And then if they have some science to do, and then we do art, and then I stop. I try to keep it at 3.5 hours. And then they're on electronics all day. Like, to keep them from yelling and screaming at each other, they're good going on. Somebody's on their tablet. Somebody may be on watching TV. Somebody's, my middle, she's not my middle. She's my oldest teen I have at home. My other daughter's in college, and that's a whole different story. But she's on her phone. So that gives me time to breathe. Plus, I'm taking classes and studying for certifications. And it's been rough. And then thinking about my mom, she's at home by herself. My daughter was in college. She was on spring break. And so right at the shelter in place for the San Francisco Bay Area. They sheltered in place before we did. That day I took my daughter to my mom's house because she was at UC Davis and all her friends were leaving for spring break and she didn't want to stay. She wanted to go somewhere where she had family. And our apartment is too tiny for her to be here. Like, we're already sleeping on top of each other. So, yeah, so she went and stayed with her mom. But then, spring kicked in and she figured out that she couldn't study out at my mom's house. She just, was not focused on school. So I went back and got her from the Bay Area and brought her back to Davis. All while we're supposed to be sheltering in place, but I needed to do that for her. And so now she's back at school and she's all by herself because her roommates decided that they were going to stay at home. So now she's dealing with that and I have to call her, but I didn't want to. She called me today and I didn't really want to answer the phone. I want her to be able to, deal with it and learn how to pray in these tough times, but I'll call her later on before I go to bed. Yeah, so it's been really rough, but the good side is I taught aqua and Zumba at the gym and ultimate conditioning, or like a boot camp at the gym. And so what I've decided to do is teach Zumba Monday through Saturday at 9:00 every day for anybody who wants to sign on and do the Zumba. So that's been fun. I've been able to see some of my students from the gym, and some of my girlfriends are coming in, and people come whatever day they want to. It's free, so whatever, but it's helping me a lot. It's to have a purpose besides being a mom and taking care of the children, because I don't know how some of you stay-at-home moms do it. Like, I'm a part-time stay-at-home mom. When the children are in school, I have the one child at home and he's 4 and he'll be 5 and he's cool. We get together and hang out and he's fine with me. So, I don't know how you all do it with all your children at home. I think what I really regret is not being a stay-at-home mom from the beginning, like being that working mom, because if I would have stayed at home and raised them from the time that they were born to now and homeschooled them that way, I think they would be better behaved. I think they would be better learned. I just think they would be better people. But because they've had influences of daycares and school, like, their attitudes are just different. And we've been fighting these attitudes for years and years and years and years. But I pray over those attitudes every single night because they're trying my patience. But God knows best. So, yes. So that's where I have been for the last 2 weeks. I'm so sorry that I hadn't given you your food for thought, but I will have something in the next episode. So listen, you know what? God has not given us the spirit of fear, but he's given us the spirit of a sound mind. And if you pray and go to God with anything that you need, he says that if you just ask him, if any of my children ask me for something in my name, he will give it to you. So, if you're having a rough time like I am, and I could just be whining to some moms, but some moms are feeling me right now. If you're having a tough time, you have to give it to God, and he will give you a plan, and he will show you the exact way to go, and so that you can be in balance of everything. So that is it for today, and you take care of yourself, and I will see you next week. Bye.